Hey guys, it's Tucker. So glad to be back with you for our first follow-up to my last video. I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you to everyone who watched that last video. Your comments, your messages, and all your shout-outs, they have been so encouraging and keeping me energized to stay consistent with this. So if you're here and you haven't yet gotten the chance to watch that, please pause this and hit that link up at the top there. It's a brief explanation. I guess you could probably call it an outline of where I've been and where I'll be taking the channel. Now, moving forward, I do plan to keep these as quick and concise as possible, taking only as much time as needed to share with you and get you back to your busy life. The last thing I know you need is another person in the crowd wasting your time. But this one might be a little longer than usual because we're laying the foundation of things to come. I know plenty of people across the entire vast internet ocean, you could say, have shared on the various topics of self-help and self-improvement, people who are far more successful and accomplished than I am. But I've learned a great deal from many of them, and I would like to consider myself to be a kind of investigator, scouring and compiling, practicing and weeding out, and presenting worthwhile bits and pieces to fuel and motivate you, as well as myself. Now, I don't intend to share from a position of superior expertise, but from what I've learned and implemented in my own life, I would hope that any little nugget could be a support to you on your journey. I've never expected, the same way that none of us do, to find myself crippled by depressive mindsets and paralyzed at the simplest thought of socializing. But for whatever the reasons, I did. And after taking time to pursue health, I know I'm further along than where I was before that. And in many ways, this is meant to be a log of advice and encouragement I would have given me from yesterday or a year or 5 or even 10 years ago. So that's why I'm starting today with what we're going to call the system of regulation. That is a made-up phrase. I didn't read it anywhere. I don't hold a copyright. It means nothing outside of my attempts to clarify a framework for a habit forming and goal setting. It's really just for me, but in sharing it, maybe it could help you. So I know our society is built on the idea that we are safer and more productive when there are guidelines and consequences for operating outside of them. Speaking for myself, without structure, I know I am doomed to be a pathetic mess of a failure. The system of regulation is just a philosophy. It's a framework that helps me thrive in the best ways possible. So let's just take a step back and look at this in stages, okay? There are 3 stages to implementing any action of importance, whether it's a new habit or you're building your vision or accomplishing a short-term goal. Each of these can be broken down into 3 steps: the story, the strategy, and the tactics. You could probably say there's a fourth, the fourth being the success, but the fourth is the fruit of your labor. It's the finish line at the end of your race. It's the bonus after meeting your sales goals. Whatever is your measure of success. But first, let's start with the story. It's the story you're creating for yourself even before you live it. It's the reason why you're going down this path of goal setting and habit forming to begin with. It's why you're willing to put in the hard work even when it would be easier just to not think about it. So we're going to take a little bit of extra time today to focus on this stage before moving on. One, because it is so important for us to understand why we do anything, and also because we're going to expand on the other stages in later videos. Now, some of you might be familiar with the author and speaker Simon Sinek in his book, Start with the Why. You got to begin with the end in mind because it's crucial for success in any area of life. About 2 years ago, I realized I was discontent, not getting any closer to the person I envisioned myself to be. So I decided to take a step back, to give myself some time to envision what I wanted to be and what I wanted my life to look like. And out of that time came a better understanding of why my previous habits and goal setting weren't entirely fruitful, because they were essentially short-term in vision and short-term in execution. For a simple example, as a runner, I love running, I would set goals to run a race in 6 months, but without the clarity of why I run, then accomplishing that goal doesn't bring me any closer to fulfillment. It checks a box and gives me a memory. Both are good and valuable things, but it's not laying the bricks of a foundation for the long-term vision of my life. So stage 1 is your reason for getting healthy or pursuing a relationship, for building your business or gaining financial security. Just to give you a visual, if your life is a beautiful home, then this is the foundation that your home rests upon. Your action for this stage is to pause and take a brief moment to ask yourself why you're doing what you set out to do to begin with. So let's move on to stage 2. The second stage is strategy. The strategy is how you get from dream to reality. It's the structure you build on that foundation. It's the map to your destination, the road to your why. This is the stage I've been referring to as my rules for living. The strategies are like the walls you build on top of your foundation. The house isn't yet finished, but you can see it starting to come together. So we'll get into greater detail on the rules of living in future. As I said before, we'll move forward releasing a video for each rule and how it applies to my life, getting me closer to my goals. But let's just finish up the system of regulation even before we get there. So we move on to the third stage, the tactics. This is the stage where you add the exact details to make your goals a reality. Just to continue with the home analogy, once you have the foundation laid and the walls are up, these are the furnishings that make your home comfortable and safe space. This is where your habits begin to form into practical actions. So let's just take it from concept into practice. Say I eat out and order in way more than I should, and I want to change that for whatever the reason. Maybe it's blowing my budget, or I'm on the first name basis with the Uber Eats driver. Whatever it is. The story I want to live is I want to become someone who can cook for myself on a budget and get more creative to try different foods. Something simple like that. Say that's the story you want to live. Your strategy, the rules you put into place to make that a reality, could be I order in or I dine out 3 meals a week max, and I cook from scratch for the rest. That's a very simple rule, but it gives you a great structure for your story to thrive. But it doesn't stop there. Next come the tactics. This is where the inner chef comes alive. Your tactics could be, I buy 2 cookbooks by my favorite chefs, and I outline a month's worth of meals from those books. Maybe then I take 20 minutes every Sunday to make a shopping list from those recipes, and then I spend the following 2 hours on Sunday shopping for the ingredients. That week, I make a commitment to be home every night by 6:30 so I can cook, eat, and clean, taking time to track what I liked and didn't like about each meal. That's the structure broken down from something simple like a cooking hobby. I really hope this is starting to make sense. I want the system of regulation to become clear so that as we move forward, we can stay focused on each stage. Implementing these stages can take a bit of time, but after some practice, they really do become second nature. You might be able to tell, but I have really become so passionate about this. 2 years ago, I was living an unhappy, discontent life without an outflow of joy for myself and the people I loved. And that wasn't a story I wanted to live with anymore. So in trying to change, I decided to rewrite my own story. But in order to get there and see that become a reality, I had to create the strategy, the rules that I would live by in order to thrive and stay focused in my journey. And through it all, I learned that my depression wouldn't define me anymore, that my social anxieties couldn't control me, that by living through health and life-giving disciplines, I could gain traction and progress over my battles with mental illness and have seen real life and joy return to my creative passions. So as we finish up today, and I know I mentioned this before, and I hope you could tell from my enthusiasm, that I'd love if you would continue to come with me on this journey. I am constantly learning, so if you have ways that you are growing and thriving through difficulty, leave it in the comments below for me and for others to learn from. And if you found anything helpful in this video, go ahead and tap the like button, hit subscribe, so you can catch more of what's to come. Or maybe even share it with someone you think could benefit from it. My friends, thank you for your time. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you next week. God bless.